caught it this time. I was on mute the whole time, but I caught it this time. Hopefully you can hear me now. You clearly could not previously. Glad I caught that. This is Coffee with the Cowbell, DECAF edition. And glad to see you all here again. If you're here this time, you're probably here because of the topic of the day, collaborating with guests in Microsoft Teams. That's what we're going to talk about today. Let me check a couple things here. All right. Okay. I think we're good. So, glad you could make it. Depending on which of the 5 platforms that I'm streaming on, depending on which one you're on, feel free to throw comments in. If you're watching live, I'll try to monitor them. I'm not great at that yet, but I'll do my best. Other than that, let's just dive into the subject. So guest collaboration with Teams. And I call this part 1 because anytime I've tried to talk about this topic in the past with customers and whatnot, depending on where you go with it, it can get to be lengthy because of all of the different nuances of what we're calling guest collaboration. Let's define that a little bit here. In general, we're talking collaborating with someone outside. Usually it's outside of your organization. Is what we'll call a guest. I tend to describe guest as either a capital G or a lowercase g. I think a guest collaboration can come in 2 flavors. And I think what we'll talk about mostly right now is in the context of collaborating with Teams channels, files, chat. I recently did a survey on LinkedIn and kind of asked the kind of topics that people want to hear about in webinars like these. I was a little surprised. Most people wanted to hear about channels and file collaboration, more so than just chat, more so than just meetings. So partially that's where today's topic comes from. Partially it's because I'm trying to lead up to a full-blown deep dive. Well, maybe not a deep dive, but sort of leading into talking about Teams Connect and aka shared channels in Teams, which is in public preview right now, but soon to be GA, generally available. So I'm kind of leading up to that. But the other reason that poll and those answers are relevant is that with meetings and collaborating in meetings, which certainly the last couple years, many of us have become experts in, whether we liked it or not. I typically like to call that collaboration with a guest with a lowercase g. And so what I mean by that is, especially in Teams, it's very easy to bring a person into a meeting, at a minimal level. I tend to say if the person's on the planet with internet and at least a browser, I can get them into a meeting. And so we can have a meeting and we can collaborate in that meeting because we're, talking and interfacing with each other. We can collaborate in that meeting. But I use a lowercase g because if the only thing you're bringing into that meeting is the fact that you have an internet connection and a device, but you're not authenticating into my meeting, if that makes sense, then I call you a guest with a lowercase g because you're not getting the full benefit of the collaboration experience in that sense. versus if you were to come into that meeting and sign in prior to joining, then I would call you a guest with a capital G in most cases, because it is likely my tenant knows you, and because of that will give you more of an experience, more of a collaboration experience in that meeting. So meetings, have a, you can collaborate in a meeting. We're going to not focus really on meetings so much, as we talk today, but they do have a collaboration experience for sure. Apps are in meetings, chat, files and sharing files on the screen, at least, all that good stuff. But I'm kind of getting us on the same page of what one would consider guest collaboration, right? So at one level, guest is anyone that is not on my team or not on my org that wants to come in and do something with me. But then guest with a capital G is I have made a prior relationship with you in the system, such that my system knows you and is giving you capabilities in my tenant. That's the Ricardo version. It won't read that way on docs.com, but so let's take it with that. And so one thing I like to think about is, how did we get to where we are today in terms of collaboration, and what did we used to do? If you think about it, we used to have email as our primary way of collaborating, right? If you were in company A and someone is company B, and you wanted to work together on a project, it probably involved, if you're working remotely, it probably involved emails back and forth as your primary messaging tool. And in terms of files, you were attaching files to email. You were working on your part. You were sending what you've done to someone else so they could work on it, and it was going back and forth. And that worked for a while, I guess, before we knew any better. So, email's the first collaboration, area. And then I think the next evolution came when we started putting documents in the browser. I think that kind of took our collaboration to the next level. And then it got good when we started doing co-authoring. And I'm kind of doing this historical context because I know some folks, you may not actually even be doing a lot of co-authoring today. And by co-authoring, what I mean is both of us in the document at the same time, as opposed to working one at a time, maybe the file being locked while I'm editing, and now you get to do it real-time co-authoring. We're both in the document together, right? That's the world we're in today. To me, that certainly feels a lot more like collaboration with someone when we're to that degree. And so we got documents in the browser, and then we got the co-authoring piece. Did we have a single place where we would all come to do this stuff? I think that's where Teams now kind of comes into play. That one-stop shop for the chats and the meetings and the files and the collaboration and all of that across multiple teams, across whatever, that's where a lot of where Teams provides its value. And so that's a very quick walk through history, and I'm sure I missed a lot, but just trying to give us the context of what we mean about collaborating, right? What does that really entail? And it's about meeting each other where you are, and two orgs working together that might be walled off to some extent. How do two walled organizations find a way to collaborate together, right? So Started with email, now we're with Teams, thankfully. Some of you are still probably using email for collaboration, and it may be working for you. Hopefully you at least admit to some of the limitations of that email approach, and hopefully you're trying to get to something like Teams, because there's a lot of downsides to trying to collaborate just with email. I see a comment here about you've onboarded thousands of guests, which is true. And in this comment, you onboarded thousands of guests. To me, that's the guests with a capital G that I mentioned. You've onboarded them. You've brought them into the system in such a way that the system now knows these thousands of people, and that's in my words, an official collaboration relationship, versus a guest with a capital G where the system doesn't know you, but I'll let you in for this collaboration moment, but not fully in. One thing we learned from the Microsoft team is the saying, because guests, when stuff just doesn't work. I think you're saying, our explanation for something not working is, well, that person's a guest. I think that's what you're saying there, which I think has some credibility. Well, I guess I would say it differently. The way I tried to just describe it, not so much that it doesn't work, but that the system, am intentionally giving you less of an experience because I don't know you. That's the way I say it. That the system is, knows who's family and who's an acquaintance. And if you're an acquaintance, sure, come into this meeting and be a part of the meeting, but you're kind of a stranger, and so I'm not gonna let you just walk upstairs to the second floor. You got to stay in the dining room, right? You get the dining room experience. You don't get to use the second floor bathroom. Versus if you're a family, go wherever you want. Your family, do what you want to do. Collaborate on the files and use all the apps and the blah blah blah. That's kind of how I describe it. So I appreciate the late night humor, as you say in the chat there. It's all good. But it is important. That is an important distinction for someone to understand, because if you don't understand that distinction, it will look like something's not working versus something working really the way it's intended. Again, I don't know you, so I'm not letting you click those 3 buttons, versus, oh yeah, I'm fully aware of you, we've got a prior relationship, so click away, I trust you, kind of thing. That's a very important distinction. Hopefully you've where's my environment? Hopefully you've evolved away from the email here and have evolved towards the chat, okay? Or I'm sorry, Teams and a single collaboration platform. And so that capital G from a Teams perspective, that capital G guest is often evident for us up here at our, whether it's our face or our initials here, but up here. And I should have enabled it here, but this is usually where you come to see the places where you are a guest with a capital G, meaning you have been invited and are a part of other people's tenants, other people's homes, right? You've been invited to other people's homes, and those homes will be listed here. I'm trying to think if I've got a place anywhere where I can show that. Let me try this one here. I don't know if the admin is a part of other tenants. That's not what I want. So contoso and okay. Well, this is not a great example, but I don't even know what none is. It's probably something I was demoing, But this is essentially what I was trying to show, which is the administrator here, and I click there, is a part of contoso. That's the administrator's or this user's home base or home org. And then apparently they're in another one called none. It probably wouldn't be called none. In reality, call it, company ABC. And then you could be like me in real life that's got a list of like 12 orgs, here. And so when this user is ready to collaborate with the none company in this case, they would switch over, and I guess I'll click it, why not? They'd switch over to that tenant in order to be a part of the environment in which they are a guest. So what you just saw here is that I'm now in the none org. Apparently, maybe even for the first time. And let me see if I can make this bigger. So hopefully you were able to see that earlier. But that's the org that I'm in. These are the two options here, main company and the other company, right? And so I've switched over to the none company. And I am in this environment a part of one team with one channel, not much going on here, right? But what this does allow me to do, so none, this none team, that's a terrible name. I should have really named some. But whatever's going on here, whether it's chat, meetings, whether it's files, there's one here. But, this is a file in the none organization. Okay, it's not a part of my contoso organization. I don't own it, but as a guest in this tenant, I am able to open it, obviously view it, but even edit it with my none company collaborators. All right, so if the other none employees I'm really starting to hate that name there, but if they're in this document too, we're all in it together, almost as if we're part of the same org working internally on the same document. So to me, this is kind of the heart of guest collaboration, right? I have brought someone into my space in a controlled way in order to collaborate with them. And so by controlled, for instance, if I go to a team that I own here, like let's go here with and manage team, you'll see that there are members and there are members and guests. I've got a guest, Surface Pro Bro as a guest in this one. But what I wanted to show is that guests have some different permissions than members. So for instance, if I'm a guest in someone's tenant, by default, and I think I'm missing a checkbox here, but by default, I can't create a channel in that guest environment unless they allow me. I can't delete a channel, right? So I'm a guest there. I can do a lot of collaboration with you, but I can't just go, full blown hog wild in there. So there are other guest settings at the more at the tenant level as well. So yes, as the commenter was saying, onboarded guests, but it's not like I'm bringing them in and giving them full power to do everything. There are some controls in place. I see in the chat, we've done a lot of work onboarding large numbers of guests into our tenants for conferences and teams. It's funny, the nuances of guests, such as inability to set virtual backgrounds or initiate a PowerPoint live share and a channel meeting. A lot of bits of information to explore between member and guest participation, experience, and teams. I always recommend our users to invite themselves as guests to their own team so that they can see things from their perspective. And you're not derailing my episode at all. That's absolutely right. The guest experience is a different one, and it's one that we need. Now, some of the limitations, I would put the limitations in two categories. One is we designed it that way because, we want to maybe not necessarily give a guest. We don't want you to worry about a guest having too many abilities. The others might be just things that we just haven't enabled yet, like, starting a PowerPoint live share. I would imagine that's not so much a security and compliance thing, so much as just a feature that just hasn't hit yet. So I would put those into two camps. But all of that being said, I think it's easier to consume and to wrap your head around that guest concept when you understand that the things I can't do or don't seem to be working, it may be because of that guest membership. That's just important because I've seen a lot of frustration from people who just think it's broken, and when in reality there may be some forethought to that experience. Again, half of it could be by design, half of it could be we just haven't implemented it yet for guests. Yeah, even when we later talk and demo full-blown shared channels, just like when private channels came around, there's going to be some caveats initially. Again, some by design, some just not there yet. Private channels had some caveats when it first launched, and then then they started implementing additional things. So same concepts. So good stuff there. But yeah, being able to bring everything into a single place, and today the main way we did that was through switching back and forth between tenants. Let's talk a little bit quickly about those who don't like this approach. Why don't they like it? And now I'm realizing I must be a guest in one of the Teams, the free version of Teams. That's why that's probably saying none. It's not an actual org. Anyway, but what people tend to not like about this, first off, is the switch period. They have to actually switch contexts to work with that other org. I personally find some value in a conscious switch because I kind of like making the conscious decision that I'm about to work in this space. But I get it. The switch is jarring, takes time. That was a big point a while back, that the actual switch itself, let me switch back and we'll see how quickly this happens. But it used to be, I think this is going to happen relatively quickly. Yeah, to me, that's relatively quickly, and that's probably in the context of, I remember a few years back when that switch took a lot longer than that. And that was a big complaint and a big barrier to that collaboration. But yes, being able to switch between tenants is the way we collaborate, right? Or one of the ways that we collaborate in Teams. And again, that is primarily from the perspective of our teams and our channels and our files. That is not necessary for our meeting collaboration. Joining company none's meeting and collaborating there is not going to require a tenant switch. However, and this is all the rabbit holes you can go down, because if I switch to your tenant, there are scenarios where if I switch to your tenant prior to joining your meeting in your tenant, I'm going to have a different and potentially better experience having switched to your tenant. I can certainly still join your tenant's meeting without switching, but because I haven't told Teams that I'm a family member, I'm going to get the acquaintance experience, if that makes sense. So yes, this list isn't necessarily for meetings, but it can impact your experience in a meeting in another tenant. Hopefully that makes sense. In the comments, happy to see you can schedule meetings in shared channels. Yep, wasn't working in private channels previously. No O365 group though, so you don't get things like Planner. Yep. Yeah, that planner was the first thing I thought about too with that share channel. We'll get into that as well. But yes, good stuff there. So having switched, can't really necessarily show all the things that are different. There is a maybe I can find it real quick. I mean, there's certainly a website that roles, yes, that actually breaks down the difference. So there's, I don't think this is it, but here's one about guest access in Teams. It talks a little bit about this, a little more technical actually. Roles in a team meeting is what I was looking for. So the nice table check boxes thing is, that's what we were looking for. So this first one was roles. Let's see, roles in actually, this isn't what I was looking for. That's roles in a meeting. That is not what I wanted. I want, go back. Hello. Guest, I think it's this one. Yes, there we go. Following table shows the capabilities. Can I make this bigger for you? Capabilities available for each role. Owner, member, and guests. And so creating channels, if I give you that option, private chat, I'm in your org and I can chat with other people in your org. That's one of the benefits of me being a guest with a capital G in your tenant. Channel conversation, sharing a channel file, sharing a chat file, no check. That happens to be because I'm in your tenant and I don't have a OneDrive account, which is what we need for that one-to-one chat file sharing. No apps. I can't come into your tenant and start creating teams. You might find this interesting. I'm a guest in your tenant. I can delete or edit posted messages. The messages I post, not delete or edit yours. Can't start viewing people's org charts. Can't start adding more guests. Can't delete a team. So again, as you kind of go through this, I'm hoping some of the things I'm describing here make total sense. Well, yeah, that's not a broken lack of a feature. A guest, someone who is not a member of my org, I don't know. You could go either way, but I feel like that makes sense. Someone's not in my org shouldn't be able to come in and fire up new teams or delete my teams or start, I don't know. This feels like a good list to me, and it goes on a bit there too. So if you are looking for what's the difference, there's certainly documentation for that. But yeah, so there are differences. To me, that's a good start for part one. To get on the same page about what a guest is. I hope my capital G and lowercase g and concept is helpful. I guess the other paradigm I'm using is family member versus acquaintance or stranger, right? But in all of those, whether it's capital G or lowercase g, we do want to be able to collaborate with each other, but we're going to continue to talk through the different nuances of it, culminating in the current maybe best practice way of doing that, which is the brand new shared channels concept. All right. So that's, kind of my thoughts there. My intention is to kind of keep this going as a bit of a series. I don't know how many parts it'll have, but a series of talks about collaboration, demoing some things as well, culminating in demoing the shared channels concept. You may have saw some shared channels even in what we were looking at today. I'll start diving into those further in the future. If you've got questions or thoughts or things you want to see as I go along, hit me up. I'm happy to add those. I want to, do the kind of things that are relevant to everybody out there. And of course, these are all archived on youtube.com/teamworkcowbell. I think that's the right URL. Or www.teamworkcowbell.com. All right. Yeah, hope that was helpful. Hope this time is helpful, especially for West Coast folks. Also trying to do this on Saturdays too. I'm thinking about an early time on Saturdays. Trying to, find that perfect time for everybody. But hope this was helpful. Continue to hit me up in the comments if you got anything else. I'll try to respond and whatnot. But if not, otherwise, I will see you next time on Coffee with the Cowbell. All right. So you guys have a good one, and I'll see you next time.